Howdy, 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 and welcome to another episode of the DirtInfo podcast. This week, Carter and I BS about big money mods and late models around the country. Things might get a little nippy, and as always, we send you home with one for the road.
And if you could just please like, subscribe, follow, whatever the option is on your platform, it goes a long way. And with that, I guess we'll introduce a new segment that we discussed having, and it's pretty much just talk about our racing shirt that we got on. I mean, everyone I'm sure has one if you're watching a racing podcast. So we don't have any name for it. So if anyone has a name for this segment, please feel free to put it in the comments. But yeah, we'll kind of just we might have a story behind the shirt or we might not. But I got a Lucas Oil late model shirt on, and this one actually has a good story behind it. In 2022, me and my dad were going to Iowa for it was 4 races, and like what usually happens with me, as we'll talk about later, weather became a factor. And the first Sunday, it was Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Sunday, Monday rained out, and then Monday rained out super early. And I talked to my dad, and I was like, "Hey, Farmer City's got a rescheduled Lucas Oil late model race, and we're in Iowa, so this is like a 5-hour drive." It's like we didn't come this far to see only 2 days of racing in 4 days. So do you want to go all the way to Farmer City? And I think all I had left was like two B mains or it was one B main and two features, and we're like, screw it. So we drove 4.5, 5 hours to Farmer City, and I was like, and Lucas Oil never comes in my area, so I was like, I'll get a shirt. But yeah, I'll always remember just driving like 5 hours for a B main and two features. Shepherd won that night. It was during the Illinois Speed Week that they do in May. So
Right on, right on. That's actually a really cool story too. I think one thing I've noticed is you've got your dad has some pretty cool stories. Like you tell a lot of stories with your dad, and they're just your dad's really was a really cool dude. Like he was. I dig it a lot, and you guys had a lot of adventures. So that's cool. So but yeah, mine isn't as cool of a story. But it does have a little bit of a story, and technically, I am a little bit of a shameless plugger sometimes, so it'll make sense in a minute. But I got this at the Dome in 2022. I'm pretty sure that's the year I went. I've actually had to fact check myself a couple times, but I went in 2022. And so it is also styled after Top Gun, which is like A1 my favorite movie of all time. So I'm kind of a sucker. I also have a Fergie hoodie that has sort of that Top Gun-ish style to it, and a Brandon Cobb shirt. I'm a sucker for Top Gun style
was that
merch.
his gray car that he had?
Um, I don't recall. It's on the back. I only ever see the front, Carter. No, it's a black car on the back. No, it's not the
Okay,
gray car. I think
I
you're thinking
remember
the fighter pilot car,
that's what I'm
which
thinking of.
was the
Yeah.
year after. Yeah, the year after. No, my buddy Joel has that shirt with that on. It's a green shirt. It's like a military green shirt. I
Oh,
didn't picture my buddy as a military green shirt guy, but he got it and he rocked it. So go Joel. but, but anyway, so that's sort of the story behind the shirt a little bit. And then also, HighSide Race Shots is kind enough. Tim Hunt, a gentleman I've met a couple times, and I think we were chatting a little bit before. Carter, you may have even met him once as well. But Tim is HighSide Race Shots on Facebook, and then HighSideRaceShots.com as well. And he was gracious enough to provide us an awesome shot of Jim Chisholm for our thumbnail. And so we just really want to say we appreciate it, Tim. Thank you for all the awesome coverage that you had down there for the XR Dominator. And thank you for being kind enough to let us use one of your awesome pieces of work for our thumbnail. So we really appreciate it. Everyone, if you're watching this, go give Tim a follow. He really rocked it for the XR coverage. Honestly, he was kind of more or less just about all of it. So him and us, and it was just me reposting him. So anyway, I digress. So really appreciate that. Anyway, so I guess we're talking XR Dominator there with thanking Tim. So we might as well lead off with it. So we both watched it. Everyone knows I have about 400 million opinions probably, but give me some takes. Tell me what you thought of what you saw.
well, the first thing I saw was the track was very, very wide, and concerned. I don't know. It kind of seemed like it. Like at times they could run the very top, and then at other
Mm-hmm.
times, like they could get to the middle, and that was as high as they were getting. I don't know. And I wasn't the biggest fan of the track, but it also might have been windy, whatever, like
Yeah.
I know someone said you mentioned this that someone said that they like at times you run wide open around the place, like a driver said or something. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
it was Brad.
Trevor
Someone mentioned it.
Hughes. Yeah, I
Yeah,
believe it's
so
Trevor Hughes who had said that on the Grand Meadow Speed Lab podcast. I think I got that right, but I might have flubbed it. But anyway, yeah,
but
that's
yeah,
what
so I
Trevor had
mean,
said.
may have just seen it on a different night with track prep. I mean, not
Yeah.
every night's perfect. Like I'm not one I could never do a track prep job. If I do a
Yeah.
track prep job, it'll be rubber down by hot laps. So or it'll be a mud
Right.
pit, one of the two.
Right. Right. So
But
like an interesting thing that I kind of heard about that after the fact. So Jim Chisholm and Barry Braun did uh a little podcast earlier this afternoon. And one of the unfortunate things about that show, and I'm never going to hold it against it, but there was a medical emergency that kind of put a halt to the proceedings right before they were getting into the last two races. And as I understand it, track prep was halted as the guy doing the track prep obviously had to go attend to that situation. And anyway, so when it was all said and done, I mean, we're pressed for time and we're not going to hold people hostage. We're going to do the best we
exactly.
can, but that thing sat for a while, as well. So maybe if circumstances play out a different way, the track may have been way more choice. It is just a victim of circumstances, and you just do the best you can. So, yeah, the track ate up a bunch of tires. That in and of itself kind of became a bit of a storyline as well throughout the race. Just guys having to go through tires. Uh,
I will say
yeah,
too, along before we talk about that, there was a high limit race there last year, I thought the track was cool. So I didn't
yeah.
like it on this past night, but I would love to see like a late model show or something there or sprint cars in person. But yeah, the tires, it reminded me of like Eldora, like some of those Eldora shows where it's like, will this guy's tires make it to the end, or will the guy who pitted, 20 laps ago end up actually winning this thing? And I mean, you don't always want to see those races, but the feature was entertaining because you really never knew what was about to happen.
Oh, absolutely. It was absolutely entertaining. I will say this. I was on the edge of my edge of my seat. I almost said something weird there, but and like I honestly at times kind of like was checking myself like, Josh, are you really kind of feeling this sort of way about the race? But I was like admittedly, like, I don't know, the guys being able to pit had halfway and take new tires and then just go hard again for another 30 laps was bugging me a little bit. I felt some kind of way, I guess, about that. It didn't sit well. I felt like a 60 lap feature. We should be able to get through this thing on one set of tires. Now I know that the track became abrasive and chewed them all up, but I
Hey,
did. I felt a certain kind of way about that.
the winner got through on one set of tires, didn't he?
He was the only one, Jim Chisholm. I mean, we haven't even mentioned that he won, but yeah, Jim Chisholm took home 100K, and he was the only car still on track on the original tires he started with. So that's like just badass in and of itself.
And I feel like there was like a couple times too where didn't second like take out the leader like multiple times in that race. I know Krupp got taken out leading at one of the points, I believe, and then
Hmm.
I feel like there was one other time too that I can't remember. Like there's
There was an incident with Cole Falloway and Kate Dillard for the lead on a restart, like going
Yeah,
into
it was
three and
always
four,
on
I
a
think.
restart, like
Yep.
or like right after a restart, which I mean,
Yep.
if you it wasn't the tires, you were getting not probably not on purpose, but you were getting taken out. But yeah, it
You were
was
getting.
a lot of wild stuff was going on in that race.
Yeah, yeah, that was to be fair, like I really like Cole Falloway. So this is not like I didn't want to see Cole Falloway win. If he won, I would have been super pumped. But it was right about that point I was just kind of like Dillard's out here on his original equipment. Cole, went and changed about halfway, and now he's just gonna blow by him. And he did almost blow by him. And Dillard had other thoughts, or however it played out. It didn't happen to be so, but um if Cole gets by him and runs away and wins, credit to him too, right? Like it was clear that on this night there was a lot of different strategies. Again, kind of referencing that podcast from on Monday, Jim Chisholm had even said like this was the lightest I've ever touched a tire before. Like took a new one off the rack and did, I don't know, jack all about tire prep, but I ran through it of just a little bit, and I think he said if I was doing a normal tire, I'd do 9 times as much as what I did. So that, like, as perspective, how little he did. So, you know, he made it work, and he won 100K. So that's awesome. Chad Wheeler ended up taking second. He hung tough for a while. Terry Phillips, I think Terry Phillips was on his 3rd tire, possibly. Definitely his 2nd. And that one was burnt up. I had seen on Facebook that was burnt up as well. Jesse Stovall, who I guess is a local guy and had run late models for a while. That was kind of the cool storyline. He took 4th and also 7K. So, like, not a terrible deal. And then Jake O'Neill. Now, I'm absolutely positive my guy pitted at least 4 or 5 times. And I get the never quit, never say die attitude, but, like, him and Mark Smith, who finished 6th, it felt like they must have went pit side 5 or 6 different times. They weren't always the one causing the caution, but they were taking advantage of the fact other people were. It felt like.
But if they won, those tires would have been paid off pretty quickly. So
exactly. But that again, I was like, I respect the hustle, I respect the grind, I respect not quitting, but, like, maybe we should have a limit.
Speaking of,
hard to.
go on.
Go ahead. I was going to say,
Well, we did it again. You go. Mine's going to change the topic.
All right. No, I actually probably forgot. No, I was going to say, speaking of which, it made me just wonder, should there maybe be a limit to how often we do that? But that also prompted me to think that actual thought I was going to have was, but there was only 11 cars that finished the race as it was. So if we had a limit how many times you could pit, it might
only Chisholm would have been left.
Only Chisholm would have been left. Yes.
I was going to mention we did picks on last week's episode. You picked Jason Hughes and I picked O'Neill, and neither of them won, but my guy did finish ahead of your guy. So
he absolutely. Jason Hughes did not have a good go of it. Got in an incident in the heat race and called it a weekend. He did qualify halfway decent, I think. But and either way, that was a bummer. That was one of my heartstrings picks, so that'd have been cool. But yeah, I would say you definitely scored more points by the fact that your guy actually made the feature.
He had a good heat race, or like entertaining heat race too. I don't remember who was he racing. It was him and someone else. I wish I could remember who it was now.
Why? Yeah,
but they were throwing sliders. Yeah, they were throwing sliders back and forth, and I was like, oh, this is pretty good.
Yeah, it was good. And they did 6 heat races, and those were good in spurts, but I think by the time they got to like 5 and 6, everyone just kind of ended up running around.
Yeah, I think that one Jake O'Neill heat kind of showed like what the track can be. It's like, that's probably how it is, like a weekly show or something. But yeah, I was entertained during that heat race and the feature for different reasons, but
yeah. And I don't know. I feel bad saying it, but it was not great racing. Like, it was highly entertaining. It was high drama, but on that night the racing wasn't great. But credit to the competitors and everyone involved that it still managed to be entertaining. That's how I left feeling. I was like, I felt like I got my money's worth for that one. Like, that,
exactly. Yeah. It's one of those, like, the race was, you weren't getting sliders, last lap passes, and all this crazy stuff. But, like, if I was there in person, I still would have been entertained during that feature, and that's what I'm going for. I'm going for entertainment. So, I mean,
like, there were. I have like a whole bunch of notes written down. There were little storylines I was watching through that whole thing. Tim Ward ended up finishing 14th, but my guy, like, he came from a C main. It was only him and one other guy who I did write down, Dave Wheatholder, were the only ones to do multiple. So they're like sort of your soup run guys. But Dave Wheatholder pitted a whole mess too. He kept coming back. At one point, I think he was like 5 laps down and just came back out. Like my man was trying. He was hustling.
He was doing the Benji strat. Just stay out there and get that
yeah,
hard charger money.
yeah. So I mean, in a lot of ways, that's what I thought Tim Ward was doing because he may have been second or last transfer in, and he was just hanging out, riding the bottom, just slowly moving his way up. At one point, though, he found himself like in the top 10 just because dudes were going for tires and everything else. But he kept battling. I think the car gave up on him. I don't think it was a tire. I think it might have been something more severe, but I don't know for sure. But yeah, he ended up.
It was like a NASCAR race when like the pit cycles happen and a guy that's like running like 30th is like your leader for like 3 laps and then
Yeah,
they're back to 30th.
yeah. I mean, with 2 laps to go, Jacob Pohl and Jesse Stovall were on the front row.
Oh, yes. I remember that Jacob Pohl leading. I was like, "Oh, this would be quite the upset if he won
That would
this."
be something, right? Like, again, another reason why it was so entertaining is that with 2 laps to go, honestly, every dude running that race on the lead lap had a shot to win. Nobody was out of it. Nobody. Jim Chisholm, I believe, had lined up third, and then they called Stovall for a jump, and then Jim started on the outside pole, and he went around Pole, whose tire like immediately went down. And then I think we ended up with another caution. And it just kept like rotating and rotating. But no, actually, I don't think we did. I think he just pulled her in, and everyone finished the race anyway. But it felt like anybody's race. Jim Chisholm's tire was absolutely bald. If it hadn't held on for 2 laps, it could have been someone else after that. So yeah, it was definitely entertaining. It was definitely entertaining. But I think other than that, I just want to leave it with Jim Chisholm did it the right way. My man ran one tire, went 60 laps, and won the dang race. all that, guys, taking all that stuff, and my man just was like, start to finish, we got this. Managed it. I think at one point he was in like 5th or 6th with less than 10 to go. And just my man did it. Like I just think it's so cool that the one guy to not take a tire was the guy to win it. He even said like if I'd have been in 5th at any point, I probably would have, but I was never really that far back except for that one time when I screwed up. So, anyway, so I think other than that, I did want to mention too, I thought it was cool they did a couple other things I liked, and we'll just kind of quickly mention. I liked that they did the non-qualifiers race for 2K. So Zane DeVilbiss was the winner there. He picked up a 2K check. That's not a bad little payday for missing the feature. And then I thought the heat draw thing was at least neat. I thought it was cool that basically you qualify in, and instead of some mandated invert, it's like you can play the format however you want to play the format. And some dudes picked, 4th, some dudes picked outside pole, and we're like, if I just lead from 2nd, that's enough probably to lock me in. So I thought that was neat. And then, yeah, I think the only other 2 things I wanted to mention.
You
What
want to
else
jump?
did you watch?
I was gonna say you want to jump into late models because that is the other thing I watched. Lucas
Yeah.
Oil and the World of Outlaws. Lucas was at Atomic in Brownstown and they didn't get rained out, surprisingly.
Yeah.
And then the Outlaws were at Swainsboro. We can start with the Outlaws if you want. I think the main thing that happened in the Outlaw race was it, I think the first night, the big
The
wreck.
Friday night.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the big wreck with Chamberlain flipping, Bronson was like on top of him, and then like 8 to 10 other cars were into the wall and stuff.
Yeah. It felt like it was almost half the field, probably. Pretty dang
Yeah,
close, if not. You and I were actually chatting back and forth a little bit on that. And I was like, there's a car under Bronson. And you're like, wait, there is. I didn't even notice that.
yeah, I didn't even realize there
The-
was a car under him. I didn't realize anyone
yeah.
flipped.
Yeah. That was wild. That was wild. Thankfully, everyone was okay. Chamberlain, I think, came back and made the feature the next night. So,
And then Bronson tried to keep racing. At one point, they were taking the roof off his car. Does
Oh, that's right.
anything to stay out? Get,
I remember the
getting
Sawzall.
topless 100 practice in at Swainsboro, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, they did give it a go. Yeah, and then kind of after that, if my memory serves, I'm pretty sure Bobby just kind of ran away with Friday.
I
Uh,
I think Gustin, I think they got into traffic and Gustin was, I think it was Gustin. Someone was near him at one point and then a
okay.
caution came out and then there was no more traffic to really slow him down. But, and then
Right.
Saturday night, Gustin ended up winning. I don't really remember what happened in that feature. I don't think it was anything too crazy. Nothing like Friday
Mhm.
night.
Nope. I don't think anything super crazy. The only thing I liked was Ashton Winger ran second.
Oh, yep.
Um, yeah, I mentioned in the dish on Monday, like it's kind of looking like four guys are breaking away. It's like Gustin and Bobby Pierce are kind of like AB, and then Troutman and Hoffman are like kind of the next two. And then all the rest of the guys are kind of jumbling for where they're falling in, but those guys are just clicking off top fives, top tens so far this season. So I think it'd be neat if Winger could get her turned around. They're going, I want to say they're going to kind of tracks he's good at, but it's also tracks a lot of other guys are good at
Yeah, I think they
too.
go to Farmer City next, I believe is their next
Yeah,
race.
I
And
think
I mean,
so
he's
too.
ran the Hell Tour a couple times, so I mean, he likes the tracks. Like, I can't remember who it is. Maybe Ben Shelton or someone that calls him like he lives in Georgia, but like his favorite tracks seem to be in the Midwest. Like,
Mhm.
he just loves those tracks. Like they fit him, even though most of the tracks where he's from aren't like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the unfortunate part is they also fit Bobby
Yeah,
Pierce.
that's the unfortunate part.
There's a little bit of a fly in the ointment. And I think Gustin does okay there. And Hoffman, I assume, has probably run those a bunch in a mod.
Yeah, in a mod.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Hoffman, I think won the Farmer City. I think it's the Line I-100 is the name of it last year. It was him and Pierce. They were like coming off the track, and when they crossed the line, and
Yeah.
Hoffman got him. Yeah,
Yep. Yep. Yeah. So yeah. But it'd be neat to see Winger kind of mixing up with those guys. I think he would just be a nice addition to kind of those four guys. There are obviously a ton of other guys that are good there. I'm just, if we're gonna have a 4-pack breakaway, I like seeing Ashton Winger be an agitator amongst the other guys.
and their next race is Atomic, by the way, in two
Atomic.
weeks. But and speaking of
Yeah.
Atomic, that's where Lucas started
Hey,
on
nice
this
transition.
weekend on Friday. Um, And RTJ won. That was a good race too. RTJ won that, but Josh
Yeah.
Rice, like multiple times, I thought I was going to get him, and he may have if there was a caution that, of course, traffic we got rid of all the traffic, and
Hmm.
RTJ kind of pulled away after that. But yeah, and then Davenport spun too while running
Yeah.
second. A lot of stuff happened in that race too.
Yeah. That one, the Davenport one that was pretty wild because he kind of got mixed up with a lapper there, and he was just starting to really pressure RTJ in traffic. RTJ made the move on the lapper, and lapper kind of lost control a little bit, and JT got collected, but um, or JD got collected, but I was just like, dang it. I mean, we're gonna get more of this, but I like when guys are chasing RTJ down. So like to your point about Josh Rice later in the race, that was fun to watch. Like when he's kind of being hunted instead of he's fun as hell to watch doing the hunting, but it's nice when he's out in front knowing we got guys that can actually get back to him.
Yeah, catch up
So
to him.
yeah, yeah. So and then on Saturday, Devin Moran, I think that wasn't Brownstown always, I feels like always delivers. It just gets wider and wider and wider. You're saying, the other track might have been too wide. Brownstown doesn't ever seem to get wide enough.
No,
I did.
they're driving off the straightaway and stuff there.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, but Moran kind of, I felt like my takeaway just felt like Moran kind of, I think he won comfortably. And every time they got in traffic, it would feel like it could get exciting, and he'd just make a couple of nonchalant moves and put a couple guys between him and whoever was running second at the time, and end up just
I
just kind
think
of going away.
most of the battles in that race were around like that second, third place. I think Marler was there,
Yeah,
RTJ. I'm sure
yeah,
JD was up there. I don't remember who was all up there, but it
yeah,
was
yeah. JD finished third, and then speaking of Marler, fourth both nights. So Andy he revealed the Infinity chassis. He went over to an Infinity this weekend
and it
and
worked
rolled
out
out.
well.
It worked out well. And beyond, right? But no, so that worked out well. And then Josh Rice was top fifth at Brown, or was fifth at Brownstown as well too. So he had a hell of a weekend as well. So, but yeah, Saturday was big money and highly entertaining. Just the lead was kind of never in doubt. But yeah, the from 2 to 5 they mixed it up the whole dang time. Um, you know, Northern All Stars late models and modifieds are supposed to be going there. They tried once, they got rained out. I think they're supposed to be there this weekend, and they readjusted and they're going to Florence this weekend. But I want to see mods. I said on Saturday I want to see mods there. Now I really want to see mods there. So I'm gonna be watching that Northern All Star schedule. They better make it back.
I'm sure they'll make it back. Well, as
I'm
long as the
sure they
weather
will.
works out for 'em. So far,
Yeah.
it's not been great for them.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. March in Indiana doesn't sound like a guaranteed racing weather. So I appreciate the effort to try to make it work, I guess. As long as everyone's understanding, it seems like they have been. So that works out well. Um, I know you often internally roll your eyes when I talk about points, but I do want to mention that RTJ and Devin Moran are tied for first. So that's at least kind of neat. but, but other than that, yeah, those are the 2 point leaders. And
And
then
I
that
think Pierce is still leading the Outlaws, I believe.
yes. Yep. Did I write down points back? I did. Speaking of ties, Ryan Gustin and Nick Hoffman are also tied for second in Outlaws. So
Well,
ties abound.
enough with late models for now. Do you want we can jump into some more mod stuff? IMCA mod stuff.
Yeah, your
Be
favorite.
Beatrice had the spring. Is it Spring Nationals? It's Spring something. Everyone, I think it's Spring Nationals.
Beatrice was 32nd annual Spring Nationals.
Yes, one of the 80th different Spring Nationals happening in March and April.
Yeah,
But they had 5,000 to win mods, and no surprise, Jordan Grabowski won in Nebraska at Beatrice, a place he's run
yeah,
a million times probably. He won the stock cars too, I believe you said, which is
yeah.
two grand there.
Two
So
grand there.
he had a good little weekend in in his home state. And then I want to mention too, Coy Valise, who's a sport mod racer from my area, went over there. I didn't think anyone from Wisconsin was gonna go there, so it was cool to see one Wisconsin guy show up, and I think he finished sixth. He was sixth or seventh around that area. Um, so it was cool to see a Wisconsin guy there. I was not expecting that. So, and
Cool.
he just started racing, I think in 2023, and he's already got a track championship, a 5,000 to win, sport mod win. So off to a good start. So.
Heck yeah. So I did want speaking of sport mods, Trevor Noonan was the winner there, and that was also a 2K win.
Yep.
But I'd seen a post. So when you had mentioned it was Spring Nationals, I sort of triumphantly was like 32nd annual, but it sparked this memory that Trevor Noonan had kind of made a Facebook post saying like I used to watch this race as a kid. Like this is the one that I've wanted for the longest. So you know, that's cool that this thing's been around that long, and we've got kids who used to just go watch now, like wanting to win and winning it. So I thought that was just kind of a neat little story that I picked up while scrolling. So, speaking of other spring nationals, we had mentioned the Scotland County had the Memphis Spring Nationals. I think weather was a little bit of a havoc
Yeah.
there,
Friday
but
got rained out, so I went to a 1 day show, which I'm sure guys coming from a distance may have said we're not going that far for 1 day. So I'm sure I don't think it helped the car count. Hopefully it
yeah,
didn't hurt it too bad.
definitely didn't. But when I checked in on the results, there were quality cars there. Austin Becerra won and Dylan Thornton two. So whoever went to the show got a show. It feels like I don't know how good the races were, but those two guys up front, it feels like it should have been something fun to watch. So I just thought that was worth mentioning. And then also a couple other like mod results that I had brought up last week. So Tom's the Touring Outlaw Modified Series had their opener at Southern Oklahoma Friday, Saturday, 1,500 each. Friday's winner was Mitchell Clement, and Saturday's winner was Chase Hatton. And then also the Modified Mafia was at County Line for a 3K Baton Memorial, and that had Chris Arnold as the winner. And then those guys actually go again this weekend. The Modified Mafia does for 7,500 at Needmore. So That's a decently big money race for UMP mods, and
And
is
for mods in
Needmore.
general, I say
Yeah,
7,500 is pretty good. What are you gonna
yeah.
ask?
Needmore's in Georgia, right?
I believe so, because
Yeah,
Hunt the Front had a during Speed Weeks they had like a race there, and so it has to be close to Florida. I'm pretty sure Georgia sounds right.
yeah. I think it is. It's okay if we're wrong. Someone will tell us we're idiots, but I'm like 98%. But anyway, that's a. I don't think you hear UMP mods for 7,500 in Georgia very often
I was
at
gonna
all.
mention, I feel like there's not a ton of UMP mods in Georgia. Like there may be non-sanctioned tracks that just run UMP rules, but yeah, I never really hear of UMP in Georgia too often.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty big in North Carolina, so maybe there's some bleed over. But I'm with you. When I saw, I was like, neat. I had caught wind. I was listening, watched a short snippet of some of the Modified Mafia announcer call on Facebook, but I guess they do like a North South series and then like an
Oh, okay.
overall points. So that was news to me at the time, but I think that maybe explains how. Because I think I've seen him up all the way up in like Maryland too, so it's like, wow, we're covering some ground. Uh, so I guess I learned that. So just something else I wanted to add because I'm at least going to be following this. The 3K last weekend 7,500, that's decent money for UMP mods, worth keeping an eye on. So anyway, moving along, I think at this point that covers everything we wanted to chat about as far as results. So we can kind of look ahead for next week. So what are we gonna be watching? And yours is way better than mine. So I'm gonna let you lead. So Carter, what are you hoping to be watching this weekend?
Hopefully, I'm watching at least one day of the Nippy 50. I was planning to go Saturday, and that's still the plan. But if around like Thursday, if the weather looks terrible for Saturday and it's clear, that will not be an option. I may try to get done with work early on Friday and just make the drive Friday, 4.5 hours, and then come back. But that's if work works out, and if weather works out too, I guess. It may change to Friday. You never know.
Yeah, it could. This time of year, she's unpredictable and usually unfriendly, it feels like. But I am you've been talking about this for like at least 2 months. And so I want this real bad for you. I really do. And if it means that you have to throw all the plans kind of into array to just make a run on Friday night, I am rooting for that. So,
Yeah, I haven't seen racing since last October, so I'm hoping
uh,
if it doesn't happen this upcoming weekend, I promise you I'll be at a racetrack the first week into April. I don't know where, hopefully Iowa, but I'll see racing here soon.
you've been we've been chatting about that. Your radius is wide for that first weekend
Yeah,
in
it's
April.
the radius. So the plan is the Frostbusters, IMCA Frostbusters in Iowa, but if the weather doesn't work out, I got Kentucky, Illinois, Minnesota, Indiana, all on the radar. So
All are in play for that
even
first.
Missouri, I-55, that's barely in Missouri, but that's also an option.
Yeah.
So
I love it. That's going to be a story we're going to keep an eye on. Uh, there's no way Mother Nature can wipe out every single one of those tracks
well,
that weekend, right?
the very last option is an enduro race at a asphalt track in Wisconsin, and they race in the rain or the sun. So
Uh,
that
so you,
I got one guaranteed race for sure. I like to be at a dirt race, but I'll take an enduro race over nothing. So
my guy is talking about taking the long way to Indiana for a race over an enduro in this home state.
I just like dirt tracks more. I'll take those over an enduro. If enduro is the only option, I'll go to one, but they're not the highest thing on my favorite things to watch.
Oh, I love that, Carter. That's awesome. Especially because I know going to Indiana is inconvenient because you're not going to take the quickest route there.
No, I do not like driving through Chicago. Although it depends how much longer of a drive it'll be. If it's like 4 hours to avoid Chicago, like 4 hours longer, I might just
Uh,
risk it
yeah, just drive fast.
or leave
Or
super
time.
early.
Yeah, I mean, that's honestly, I think everyone knows that. You know that too, right? But timing it up for a time when it's just not going to be. busy. I think early morning is usually your
Yeah,
best option, about 4.
I don't know
Still
about that
dark out.
early.
But anyway, yeah. So anyway, a little bit about that Nippy show. I'm hoping you get to go. What I do know is I think 10K Friday, 15K Saturday. I'm going to talk about like it's getting in. So if it gets in, that 10 and 15, Mars sanctioned. So that was also another reason I went with the HighSide Hustler shirt, because I figure he'll be there.
Yep.
Yep. And so I said the entry list looks pretty good. I know with weather being what it is, it is obviously subject to change, but as of now, a lot of the Mars regulars, Unziger, Fager,
Bab.
um,
He's
Bab.
full-time Mars this year. Then there's some non-Mars guys, RTJ, Gustin,
Yep.
Shepard. There's a bunch more. There's like I think there's like 35 or something on the list when I looked at it. It's a
Yeah.
pretty good field. As long as weather doesn't scare some guys away. I mean, I wouldn't blame them if they could go to somewhere else and run 2 days versus running 1 day. But
Yeah.
for my sake, I hope not.
Yeah, right. I think we saw Herb was a maybe, and he ended up being I think he said he was going to Why Not today, or earlier in the week. So that makes sense. Um, so there may be a few other ones. Drake Troutman too is going to be there as well. And then we also got IMCA mods and support. So like, I get why you want to be there. Um,
And Wisconsin guys, I know are planning to go to this. So
okay.
I
Yeah.
know
So,
there's
so
been some events where I said they might show up, but this one I know there's guys that plan on going. So
right on,
it
right
ain't as
on.
far. It's only like 4 hours for 4.5 for me. Some of those guys in southern Wisconsin, it's like a 2 hour drive. So
Yeah. So you get to see some of your guys hopefully too. Um, yeah. Well, I'm hoping. I'm hoping so. I'm hoping you get your Saturday for sure, and you don't have to blow every plan up. But maybe you get a wild hair and just try to do it all. I don't know. The weather's gonna play games. Maybe you can play games right back.
as long I'm hoping I don't. If I do show up Friday, it'd really suck if I show up and then rain all of a sudden appears in the forecast because it wouldn't be the
Yeah,
first time something like that's happened.
yeah. You and I will have a checkered history.
A lot of rainouts in Iowa.
Yeah, yeah. But well, what I'm gonna be watching is gonna be from my couch. Unfortunately, I'm not quite getting out to the track yet, but um, USMTS has the King of America 14, or XIV, um, is this weekend. They're racing Thursday for 3K, Friday for 5, and then Saturday the King of America feature for 20K at Lucas Oil Speedway. This is usually the event where they start getting really big car counts, and I'm getting the sense, I was doing a little bit of research, I'm getting the sense that's going to be my big headline after this weekend, is the car count was substantial. I don't have any prediction on that. I actually haven't even looked at what they've got, but I know the 80 used to not be crazy. Maybe it is now, and these different times. But I don't know. I'm hoping for a whole mess of cars. Uh, Stormy Scott, I believe, when he announced that he was selling out of late models and going back to the mods, had pegged this as his first event back. So he'll definitely be there. The USMTS runs pretty deep too. I think there's a chance TPO might be going. I saw a post where he was helping someone get their car ready. I was just maybe wishfully thinking that he'll also go. So it may just be wishful thinking, but anyway, uh, show favorite Scott Bintz will be there in a B mod. Anyway, not a ton to go over. It's the USMTS. It's majority of the USMTS regulars. It's just going to be really good racing. I think we might see a lot more guys from the Missouri, Kansas area show up at this versus struggling to see them make the trips down to Texas earlier in the year. So
I know
this is out.
Tim Ward's going too. That's another guy.
Oh yeah. I wonder. So that might have just been a straight up USRA car that he was running, and he's
Yeah,
just going
I
to take
think
that.
he's got two. I think he's got a USRA one and then an IMCA one.
Cool. Cool.
I
I
think
mean,
is I feel like I saw Tom Berry was going, but I can't because he's another guy with like an IMCA and a USRA car. So, but I could be
Yeah,
wrong on that. But I feel like I saw that he was going to be there too.
I'm a big Tom Berry Jr. fan. So like no joke. I mean I am. I totally dig that guy. If I had one I'll make a joke out of it. But if I had one thing to complain about, it's that he never gets any 4XL shirts, so he can't buy any merch. Because I'm a big boy. And I don't want to feel like so that's like, but otherwise, uh, and that car is gorgeous this year. Have you seen any
I have.
pictures of his?
I don't like that
Yeah.
he changed his number font though, because he's been using like the same font on his number for a while, and then he changed it up this year. I like the cars. I just wish he kept his normal font on his number. It just bothered me.
You are so wildly perceptive sometimes. I didn't have any did whoosh, never noticed a thing. I just saw pretty colors and was like, that car looks gorgeous. Car just like, I don't like that he changed his font. The other one was better. You are so detail oriented, dude.
It's just what he's had that number font for a few years. It's kind of what I'm used to now.
Oh,
Like imagine if like
yeah.
the Rocket One just changed their number font like to something completely different. It just wouldn't
Yeah.
look right. That's how I felt with Tom Berry's car.
There exists a small chance he might hear your opinion on this matter. So be forewarned, Carter.
If he sees it, please show up to the Clash of the Creek with a different number font. Thank you.
Please and thank you. Awesome. Right on. So Josh's storyline going in is, will Tom Berry Jr. be there, and can he notice the difference in number font? So I'll report back. I'll report back next week if I notice the difference for you. Uh, um, so I mentioned it a little bit before, but Northern All Stars, that's mods and late models. Late models 10K, mods 1500 at
Florence.
Florence. Yeah. Um, so weather permitting, that's this weekend. And then we had mentioned it a little bit before when we had talked about Tyler Erb maybe not going to the Nippy 50, but Hunt the Fronts at Why Not this weekend. I like that track's nickname, the House of Hook. That's a good one. Not all track nicknames are good, but I feel like that's a solid one.
It's better
I
than
like,
the fastest insert track size here name.
yeah, yeah, yep. I'm pretty partial. I'm gonna get mildly on a tangent. Ogilvy's the Big O. I like that. That's a good one. That's a good one. It's an O. Anyway, I digress. That one didn't land. You don't find it as good as I do. Anyway, so Hunt the Front Super Dirt Series at Why Not? 8K, 12K. We had chatted a little bit before the show. There is, in addition to Tyler Erb, there was a couple other guys you said might be
Uh,
there. I can't remember.
Dotson, I know is going. I wouldn't be
Mhm.
surprised if like Spencer Hughes is there because he runs Why Not all the time and street stocks
Probably.
and whatever. I'm sure there's a bunch more guys that we know of that will be there that
Yeah.
we just don't know are going at the
Yeah.
time. So
Well, Joseph Joyner will be there. We can say
yes,
somewhat,
Joyner and the
and
rest of the full-time Hunt the Front guys.
yeah, including Jimmy Owens and Ricky
Yes,
Weiss.
yes.
So interesting. And then just briefly mention, because you had told me if you don't make it to the Nippy, you'll probably be watching the Spring National. So we'll mention it just in case you do unfortunately end up with that fate. But they're at Buckshot on Friday, 75.53, and then East Alabama for 10,053. And then Carter had to go let the dog in, so I'll have to wait before I pitch
Oh,
it to
I'm
him.
back.
So I need you to get situated because we're just about to say, I think that wraps up everything we wanted to talk about on the schedule, which means only one thing, and that's it's time for
One for the road. And this is mine is a race that somehow we both missed prior to last week's podcast, but Arrowhead Speedway had a 20,000 to win stock car race. I think USRA. I don't know if it was sanctioned or not, but they're USRA, so
they
majority of the
usually are.
cars were USRA ones. But the winner was not a USRA car. It was a guy who won 10,000, I think, in February. It was somewhat recent. Cole Charneski picked up another big paycheck in the stock car, $20,000, and I think they had like 95 stock cars there.
96 total, including him. So, sorry,
So
95 plus him. So
so
96 total.
the
Yeah.
drivers definitely heard about the race. We just happened to miss
Yeah.
it.
We
Um,
missed it. Yeah, they did. They got the word out to those who needed to know. um, yeah, that's actually so. Tom's was in Oklahoma, and then XR was in Oklahoma too, obviously, and then this one was too. So Oklahoma was where it was at this weekend. If you want to race for big money, but that's awesome. Yeah, to beat 95 other cars and 20K. That's a big time stock car win. So
and
congratulations.
I saw he's planning to go to RPM Speedway, or I think it's Rolling Plains Motor Speedway is what that's RPM stands for, in Kansas this weekend. For I forgot the races, something Flower Classic. It's something I
Okay.
forgot but I think it's like 1,000 to win mods, 750 for stock cars both nights. It's just like a normal spring national. It's not called spring nationals, but one of those spring
Yeah.
nationals type
Spring
of races.
specials type
Yeah.
things. Yep. 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 So, all right. All right. He didn't want to go beat up on a bunch of USRA stock cars. Oh, I had forgotten. So, sorry to stomp on this a little bit, but I had forgotten to mention in talking about King of America. So, that is the re-debut of the Iron Man stock car series. Um, and so they're racing for 1, 2, and 3K. So I did kind of wonder if he wasn't going to go. He just whooped up on a bunch of USRA cars, and I mean, 6K up top over a weekend. Why not go cash some more checks? But uh, anyway, so congratulations to Cole, though. That's cool. That's a huge win. So, um, all right. So for my one for the road, I wanted to kind of circle back. You had asked me a few weeks ago if I thought series announcing drivers who were going to be in attendance was a good idea, and I said absolutely wholeheartedly yes. And one group of people that definitely have the same opinion I do is the Heartland Modified Tour. They were pumping out drivers all week long in advance of their event this past weekend at Humboldt Speedway, the Whitworth, what do they call it? The Whitworth Spring Classic. So another variation on Spring Nationals. But anyway, they raced for 2K both Friday and Saturday, and they managed to pull down 42 cars, and they were promoting these guys the whole way into it, and I just thought it was really cool. Like, it made me personally, as someone who's following mods a little more closely than maybe the average bear, it drew my attention to it more. I knew it was happening, but I liked knowing who was going to be there. I thought it was kind of cool when I saw Tyler Davis was going to be in attendance. I had personally some questions about what their car count was going to look like with the big 100K race. Not too far away, all things considered. And it, they kind of answered some questions, and they did a good job, I think, of answering ticket buyers' questions too by going, hey, look, we've got all these people coming. I think that was a big win too. So.
Yeah, I like when series do that, 'cause especially like if I'm driving far, like if you're posting that you're gonna have 40 mods showing up, I'll probably pick your race over a different one. So
Right. Right. And so, yeah, I just thought it was good. And if I have those questions, I'm not be the only one having those questions. So then they assuage some fears for people who are in the target audience of may want to watch it on Racing Dirt or may want to actually go attend the show. Right. They have questions answered as well. So I do want to mention sort of the results as well. So Randall Schiffenbein Jr. won both nights. So he had a sweep. My guy took home a bunch of money. And then interestingly enough, we had a sweep on the podium second step as well. Shadron Turner, who I think is a former B-Mod ace, took second in both as well. So just something kind of wanted to touch on. I think they did a good job all around. They promoted the show. They had a solid car count. They conveyed that to everybody. That the cars that were there were solid. Like, they were very solid cars. A lot of guys who have run around the Kansas area, go to a lot of USMTS events. I think guys that the whole reason this series exists for are the ones that showed up. Dudes who are good in and around the area and kind of want to go test themselves a little bit before they throw their hat in and maybe spend a little extra money taking on the big time tour. So I don't know. I thought it was a job well done by them guys down there. And so worth mentioning. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. I think that's everything, Carter.
I think so.
All right. Well, we'll wrap it here. If you made it this far, we appreciate you so much. Thank you so much. You should definitely drop a like or a comment or something if you made it this far. But anyway, much appreciated, and we'll catch you all again we will catch you again next week.